Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The jury having reached a verdict, Ms. Guyger and your team, would you please stand? We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Guyger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment. No outburst. And it is signed by the presiding juror, who is juror number 11.
Welcome everyone to the Shade and Shit Talking podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Now, today's episode is about one thing and one thing only, and that is the trial and the subsequent guilty verdict of murderer Amber Guyger. Today, she was found guilty in court for killing an innocent man, for murdering an innocent man, Mr. Botham Jean, who was in his own apartment, minding his own business, eating ice cream. And she killed him. So before I, kind of delve into the trial and what I think and things of that nature, I'm going to give you guys just a quick timeline of events. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast, you know I have been following this trial, following this whole situation from the jump. And I have to honestly say, I am very happy about what transpired today. But I'm also not at ease because, we still have another hurdle to get over in order to receive, full closure of this young man's murder. So let me just give you a quick timeline of what went wrong. So it all started a little more than a year ago. On September the 6th, 2018, Amber Guyger placed her keys in the door of apartment number 1478 at the Southside Flats apartment complex in Dallas. And her actions alone cost an innocent man his life and ended her career as a police officer. I mean, that part really doesn't matter to me. So she fatally shot Mr. Jean when she mistook his apartment for her own apartment, which happened to be one floor below his. And, anyways, so Mr. John, he was an accountant for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he was in his apartment, sitting on the couch, eating ice cream, when Amber Guyger, who had just worked a 13-and-a-half-hour shift or whatever it was, shot him in the chest after she mistook him for a burglar in his own apartment. Now, after she shot him, she realized that she was in the wrong apartment. Okay. She made a 911 call, and she rendered minimal help for this man that she shot in his own apartment. Minimal help. And basically that was the basis of her defense, was that, she thought he was an intruder, so on and so forth. But, none of us really believe that shit. So on September the 9th, an arrest warrant was issued for Amber Guyger. And this arrest warrant, charged her with manslaughter. She was released on a $300,000 bond. Nothing new there. and she was put on administrative leave from her job. Nothing new there. They kill and get paid while they chill. Now, according to the arrest warrant affidavit, she told investigators she arrived home from work about 10 p.m. Like I said, she parked on the wrong floor, on the fourth floor instead of the third. And, she claimed that she walked down the hallway that she thought was hers. She said that she entered the apartment and she heard someone inside and saw a large silhouette in the nearby completely darkened apartment, and she thought was a burglar. She shot twice. She shot a weapon twice, telling the quote-unquote intruder, her words, to show his or her hands. So his funeral was on September the 13th at Green Avenue Church of Christ in Dallas, a suburb of Dallas called Richardson. He had, classmates from the school he went to in Arkansas. He had family come from St. Lucia, people who worked with him in Dallas. He had a huge outpouring of love shown to him. Okay. Now, on September 24th, Dallas Police Chief Renee Hall announced that Amber Guyger had been fired. And Hall said she made a decision to terminate Amber Guyger after an IA investigation concluded that Amber Guyger engaged in adverse conduct when she fatally shot Mr. Jean. About a month later, on November the 30th, a Dallas County grand jury indicted her on one count of murder. And with that happening, Mrs. Jean's mother had this to say. She said, and I quote, "I truly believe that she inflicted tremendous evil on my son. He didn't deserve it. He felt safe in that apartment and he was violated." So after that, they started interviewing people and evidence and whatnot started coming out. And I actually personally got to talk to a lady who actually filmed the aftermath of the shooting. And this lady said that she received death threats. She was fired from her job, after she uploaded the footage. It was a lot of layers to that shit, to the whole situation. So then in April of this year, the 911 call that Amber Guyger made was obtained by ABC Dallas station WFAA. And in this, call, she kept saying, "I thought it was my apartment." She says, I'm going to lose my job." Never fucking mind the innocent person that you just goddamn shot. Never mind that. So, moving forward, her trial started September 23rd this year. And I, thinking about her trial, a few things. Well, one of the biggest things that surprised me was the fact that the makeup of the jury was totally different from what I thought it would be. Just being completely honest. There was, I believe, 5 black jurors, 5 Hispanic Asian jurors, 2 white jurors, and there was also 2 black and 2 white alternates. Then the judge was black. That surprised me. What also surprised me about it is that they didn't get a chance to move that trial to a different venue. They didn't get to move it to a different county. Now, the county that they had it in is very diverse. And that jury showed the diversity of Dallas County. But now they really wanted to move it to, a suburban county, and we all know that jury probably would have been at least 75-80% white. Let's just be honest. Let's call a spade a spade. Call it what it is. And this killing upset a lot of people, and it showed during the jury selection process. I remember seeing where the family lawyer Lee Merritt came out and said that he had seen more people than he had ever seen in a courtroom responding to jury duty. He said it was a huge response. He said there were lines wrapped around the courtroom. And I know personally, I've avoided jury duty, but I don't think I would have, knowing that it was possibly for something like this. And, we really shouldn't have to be talking about the racial makeup of a jury in 2019. But based off the history of this country, not just the history, goddamn it, just the present conditions in this country, it's necessary. Like you cannot. You can't do anything without race being a part of it nowadays, and that's just what it is. Love it, hate it, indifferent to it, whatever. It is what it is, and it's a part of who we are in this country, what we are in this country. MAGA, right? So when all of this timeline I gave you, all the things that was going on, there was a lot of people waiting with bated breath for this trial, and a lot of people, figured she was gonna get off. A lot of people figured that, and honestly, in the beginning, I was one of them. I remember saying to myself, last year after it happened, like, man, they gonna burn Dallas down. They let this woman off. And I'm glad they didn't. Like, this lying wench deserves everything that she get. Now, she was found guilty, and the sentence carries a range from 5 to 99 years, and I hope to God that it's closer to the 99 than it is the damn 5. She shouldn't serve a day less than how old this man was when he died. As a matter of fact, he just recently would have turned 28. A couple days ago, I believe. But a lot of things about this situation disturbed me as well. And a few things made me think she was going to get off. So one of the things was there was, I believe, 5 warrants search warrants issued in this case. And of the 5, I believe 3 was for Mrs. John's apartment. And I couldn't help but think to myself, why the fuck would they be wanting to search his apartment? What the fuck does his apartment have to do with what she did? And I mean, the answer to that is absolutely fucking nothing. But they searched his apartment, and that was step 1 into the moves that they do when they kill someone. And we've seen this before. Now, y'all remember the hashtag that was created by CJ Lawrence, founder of Black with No Chaser, a few years ago, "If They Gun Me Down." And you remember the premise behind that was, you could do all this great shit in life, graduate college, start a family, start a business, and something happens to you, they go and find the worst pictures, the worst things about you to demonize your life in your death. And that's the move that they tried to do with Mrs. Jean. They tried their damnedest to demonize the victim. And make no mistake, he is the victim. And we've seen this happen so many times. It happened with Michael Brown. It happened with Tamir Rice. It happened with Sandra Bland. Over and over and over again. I mean, not even 2 weeks after this man was murdered in his apartment, the police went public from the warrants that I mentioned earlier. They went public and said that marijuana was found in Mr. Jean's home. And, it's really unfortunate, that law enforcement, who's supposed to protect and serve, they begin to immediately criminalize a victim to protect their own. But, that thin blue line. But they tried to criminalize this man in death. They tried to kill him twice, as I like to say. They kill you twice. And the fact that he had marijuana was very irrelevant. But even still, his sister came out and she testified that Mrs. Jean had ADHD. And he didn't like how his prescribed Adderall made him feel, so he started smoking marijuana. But let's be honest, it doesn't even matter. At all. So they use that. And another tactic that they use, in my opinion, is the 911 call. They use that to set up Amber to gain sympathy. That's basically what they try to do. They focus on, when they released it, on her being distraught, and then I'm talking about the media and how they portrayed it, on her being distraught and all of that, rather than the actual situation itself, rather than her not giving a damn about the man that she just shot multiple times, but more so about her and how she feel. And like, it's crazy to think that, again, we have to go through that type of shit, but it's how it is here, period. And when you listen to the call, it kind of makes you angry. It made me angry. Because even the dispatcher, the dispatcher really ain't paying much attention to Mr. John, about his condition, about whether he's breathing or whether he's responsive. And you can't help but think, is this because she's a cop? A policeman is involved in the shooting, so, like, the whole thing just was off. Just was fucking terrible. And I might add the call into into this episode, but I don't know. But my point is, she didn't care and they didn't care, and that's why I'm so glad that she was found guilty. And they tried every tactic in the book, to try to get her off. Every single tactic. I believe they tried to use the castle law, even though she wasn't in her own house. Yeah, she was in the same apartment building, but goddamn it, she wasn't in her own house. And for those of you who don't know what it is or aren't familiar, quickly, the castle doctrine allows people to protect themselves in their own home, similar to the stand your ground laws. But again, this bitch was clearly not in her own home. He was getting ready to eat ice cream and watch TV in his living room. But again, the castle doctrine, it allows you to use force, even deadly force, in the protection of your home, vehicle, or other property if someone attempts to forcibly enter or remove an individual from the premises. And Mr. Jean was doing neither of those. And we've seen we've also seen the photos and the clips of her crying them crocodile tears, and we've seen how those tears have worked fucking wonders when it comes to white women and black lives over time, period. We've seen it. But and the thing about this trial, first of all, let me just say again, I am glad that she got found guilty, and I know that this will not bring him back. I know it won't change what happened, but I am hoping that it gives his family some type of peace and closure, because he didn't deserve what happened to him, and they don't deserve to have to deal with the aftermath and to be picking up the pieces from what this lying, murdering bitch did. But again, you go back and look at the trial and the defense and the media and how they try to set it up. They tried to villainize him. They tried to criminalize him. They tried to elicit sympathy for her as if she was, just good, but she was no angel. She said that she was tired and that she was out of it and all of this and that. But she had just ended, a sexting marathon with a fellow police officer, one Mr. Martin Rivera. So she wasn't too tired or too sleepy. She was trying to get some dick, so she couldn't have been that throwed off. That, I'm so glad that the prosecution, put that shit out there. I'm so glad that they put out that she was having sex with a married man. I'm so glad that they grilled her ass, and during cross-examination, they made her admit that she kept sending new photos of herself and sexting with this man about their next tryst. I'm glad they did that, because again, the way they tried to paint him, he was bad and she wasn't. But, now we at the final part. We at the part where we really need for this judge to come on with the come on. To bring this bitch on home and close this bitch on out. She don't deserve 5 years. That's too light. Period. Like, there's no way, no how, nothing anybody can say to make me believe that 5 years is enough. At all. You murder somebody, you get convicted of murder, 5 years ain't shit. Especially for somebody who lied like she lied. She told lie after lie. She told, she said that she gave verbal commands and all of this, but you had tenants of this same building who testified against that. You had a Mr. Ronald Jones who testified that he heard gunshots, and then a female voice said he never heard the voice give commands. You had a Miss Tadra Jones, a nearby neighbor, take the stand and said she heard 2 gunshots while at home. She heard no noise or no commotion before the gunshot. You had another neighbor, Mr. Barath Matamanchi, who took the stand, who lived in the same apartment building, said he heard gunshots and no verbal commands. So, that's what. And then, she talked about, like how are you a cop and you highly trained and you don't recognize your surroundings? I mean, yeah, other people had testified that they've done the same thing, but this man had a big red ass floor mat that you didn't have, but you didn't see that. And you know what else bothered me about the trial? Something other than the bullshit that the defense tried to pull and the bullshit that the media tried to pull, was that goddamn Texas Ranger, David Armstrong. I mean, this motherfucker had his mind made up in the beginning that she did no wrong. Like, he already felt, that she did nothing. And I think as somebody who's a part of an investigation, to already make their mind up before concluding the investigation really fucks up that investigation. Like, you know, this nigga got on the stand and pretty much said that she didn't commit a crime. Like, how? But this is the same dude who this is the same dude who almost killed somebody in a wreck while on duty, who was speeding, doing double the goddamn speed limit, and was never charged. So, that thin blue line. It drove me crazy to hear him say that he doesn't believe that the shooting was reckless or criminally negligent based on the totality of the investigation and the circumstances and facts. But he also said that he didn't believe she did it before the investigation and of the circumstances and facts. Huh. So, I'm glad she got found guilty in spite of the bullshit that they pulled, in spite of this super coon saying the shit that he did to throw off the investigation, all of that shit. And again, I hope this judge throws the whole book at her, every single goddamn chapter of that book. Every single one. Because she deserved it, and Mr. Jean and his family didn't deserve what happened.